Raucous, rowdy, and red is the crowd sidelined at Schellenberger Field. In a few moments, it's going to be a packed house here in the Hill City. It's time for a special Code Red edition of Division III Women's Soccer with heavy ODAC implications. From a pivotal part of the season, it's the Shenandoah Hornets taking on the Lynchburg Hornets. Hi, everybody. Evan Gates and Kevin Nestor rocking with you for another home match here at Lynchburg. It has been quite some time since we've been able to get in a rhythm at home in Lynchburg. Their last time out here on Schellenberger Field, a 0-0 draw against Virginia Wesleyan. They go on the road and lose to Randolph-Macon. And it's safe to say, Kevin, it's just a really tough stretch of conference play, and it continues here.
Yeah, and when you look at the schedule for both of these squads that we have here tonight, they're getting to the heart of that ODAC schedule, and it's not getting any easier. You talk about the 0-0 that we saw here. That was probably the most exciting 0-0 game. I think that's how we ended the broadcast talking about it. I can almost guarantee you we're going to see just as much excitement in this one.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the team stats coming into this contest. And this is a Lynchburg team that, as you see on your screen, has been able to find their footing offensively. These last two games have been an anomaly, trying to find the net again. You're seeing the shot totals go a little bit down compared to earlier in the season. So, Kevin, how important is it for the Hornets to get off on the right foot early?
Yeah, it's just trying to find that blueprint DNA that they established at the beginning of the season. We talked to Coach Todd Olson earlier in the season, and he was really proud of how they were executing those plays. You know, you look at the corners and the set pieces as they had. Just kind of got away from that. Not as many opportunities, but I think tonight they'll be looking to get back to that blueprint.
The note for Lynchburg, 8 clean sheets, 12 matches. So 66% of the season has been scoreless soccer, and they haven't given up a goal yet on Schellenberger Field. That's the defense for Lynchburg. Let's take a look at the offense and their player to watch, Michaela Hargrove, number 9, who will go out there in a white uniform today with goals on her mind. She scored against Randolph-Macon, 5 tallies in her freshman season. And, Kevin, you think about those players that can go out there in a tough environment or in a tough game and go out and get a score for you.
Yeah, and it's been really impressive doing it as a freshman. And in her first-year campaign, for a team that does it by committee, she's kind of been a superstar in her first season. It's been really fun to watch kind of her progression throughout, her short collegiate career so far. It's going to be fun to see how she progresses.
She's worked in tandem on the attack with players like Morgan Oliver, who was an ODAC Player of the Week a little while ago. Let's take a look at the reigning ODAC Player of the Week, McKenna Newcomb. On the other side, Shenandoah has themselves a star who leads the team in goals and assists. But Kevin, shots is the big category. She has fired the 13th most opportunities in Division III soccer, 75 shots to her name, and I think that just shows the trust this coaching staff has in their forward.
Yeah, and you talk about trust. There's a lot of it in McKenna, and whenever you look at the ODAC standings, you mentioned her outstanding total. Just for clarification, second in the ODAC is 56 shots. So she's almost 20 shots clear of anybody else in the conference. That tells you how much trust they have in her.
And 30 is the next total on Shenandoah's team. So she is firing, and she is not afraid up front. The question today will be, can Lynchburg's backline be a little more stout to make sure the Hornets don't get on the board? Lynchburg wants to have a Code Red victory tonight, and it has the makings of a good one. A fantastic atmosphere will be on the way here on this Tuesday evening. Lynchburg and Shenandoah on the other side. Both sets of 11 are fresh and ready as Lynchburg takes on Shenandoah. A pivotal game here in the middle of the ODAC slate, so we'll take a look at some of the ODAC standings as we go into this contest. And coming into this Tuesday evening, you see dominance at the top. W&L and Randolph-Macon both unbeaten in conference play. The Hornets faced the Yellow Jackets last time out. But, Kevin, you see the middle of the table. Lynchburg, a team, it's all about home field advantage in the playoffs, and wins like this really start to stack up.
Yeah, especially whenever you look at Shenandoah right there in that 6th slot at 3-2 in the conference. It's kind of been indicative of their season. If you look at their out-of-conference schedule, they played a lot of tough schools to get ready for this ODAC slate. This is the moments that they're built for.
Their coaching staff has really been adamant about facing tough competition. It helps you later down the road. As we'll go ahead and take a look at the starters for this contest. This is a Lynchburg team that comes into it with a lot of familiarity. There is one change up front. Hannah Phillips gets her first start of the year, Kevin, replacing Madeline Boyce. And you think about just having different attacking options for a team that's trying to find more goals. Safe to say you want to have plan B, plan C, and go down the list to get those goals.
Yeah, and that's basically replacing speed with speed. We've talked about Madeline Boy's track speed early in the season. Hannah Phillips, she's a burner herself, so you're definitely going to see her get opportunities here in this game tonight.
Coach Todd Olson has said she's playing really good soccer coming into this year, and then Kate Shepard obviously leads the conference in shutouts, so she's in a really good spot. But this is a Shenandoah squad that comes out with a lot of confidence. Winners of their last 2 games. They won 8-0 against Hollins. And Morgan Musselman, the freshman in goal, one to watch. This team actually has 2 freshmen that have been starting primarily between the pipes, and once again goes back to the coaching staff.
Yeah, I think what stands out about them is we talk about McKenna Newcomb, how many shots she's taken. She's kind of been the key player that you see on your screen there. And McKenna Newcomb, she's going to stand out. We're going to keep an eye on her tonight and see how she performs against this Hornets defense. It's been really solid so far this season.
There's the hometown Hornets and the opposing Hornets. The opposition are a very young squad. They come into this one with just 3 seniors, 2 of whom started their careers at Shenandoah, 1 transfer. And then this Lynchburg team, while they are younger, they definitely have a lot of familiar faces trying to get back to the ODAC tournament and make that run. This is a big game in the middle of the ODAC slate. We're going to see who takes it early and which way momentum swings, as the hometown squad will have the opening tap under the lights of Schellenberger Field. We are off and running. Immediately booting it downfield, and Morgan Oliver already in the zip code. We'll see how the Shenandoah team starts to weave defensively, because as we've said, there's a lot of speed on the outside for the Hornets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Shenandoah matches up on Morgan Oliver. We saw in the last outing here on Schellenberger, Virginia Wesleyan, every time Oliver had the ball in her proximity, the Marlins had 3 or 4 gray jerseys surrounding her. So we'll see if Shenandoah takes the same approach.
And you just think about the opportunities that this Lynchburg team has had in the last 2 games. It's all about converting in the final third, and that's what they're going to try to do today as Hargrove takes a tumble and Shenandoah ready to reverse to the other side. The Lynchburg team that has only had 16 shots in their last 2 games, 6 of which have been on frame. So accuracy will be a big piece of the puzzle. Cross sent a little too far. Rogstad boots it out of trouble. That was Kirkland Wilson in the area code, one of the junior midfielders on the Shenandoah team, has made a lot of contributions. And Kevin, going back to what we saw with Virginia Wesleyan, this is a Shenandoah team that does it by committee. They've had 25 players get a start this year.
Yeah, and they're a really young squad, only 3 seniors on the roster. So when you see that, you kind of expect that by committee effort. They've definitely been playing together with the different amounts of starting groups they've had this season.
Well, there are some teams that don't even field 25 players, and the Shenandoah team, when you look at the goalkeeping staff, they've had it split committee style this year. Morgan Musselman gets the start today, but Shenandoah has also gone with another keeper earlier in the year, Molly Donaldson, who has actually started 8 contests. 2 freshmen not afraid to go out there and wrinkle the picture. As you see on the far side of your screen, more and more fans making their way onto the track. Code Red affair and a battle of the Hornets. Pass a little too heavy, trickles back to the hometown squad's back line. We'll do it again. Ella Fulmer, who has started every match on that back line for Lynchburg, trying to get possession back. Shenandoah doing a little bit better of spreading it out. Now searching down the field in isolation, and the pass goes all the way to the goal line. Kate Shepard will get her paws on it for the first time.
Yeah, and Shenandoah not really doing a lot to pressure Fulmer, Rogstad, or Den Hartog there. They were able to come away with one of those isolation turnovers. That's definitely going to be a key, because we saw the Marlins last time out. They had a lot of pressure on that back line, not letting Lynchburg get in the flow of things. Shenandoah doing a good job one-on-one that time.
Very interested to see which way possession swings here in the first 10 or 15 minutes, because while the Shenandoah team enters the game 5-6-2, as you said, Kevin, the record isn't necessarily reflective of the efforts they've put in. They've had 4 ranked matchups, but they've also played a lot of these teams tight. Even against number 1 Messiah, it was just a 1-goal difference.
Yeah, same story whenever you look at number 1 in the ODAC, Washington and Lee. They were number 16 in the country at the time. That game 2-1 in favor of the Generals. That just tells you this team right here, Shenandoah, they've got the pieces to make a run.
And you don't want to sit around and try and play the matchup game of so-and-so beat another team, but this WNL team has run through the conference so far. They beat Virginia Wesleyan 4-0 earlier to begin the ODAC slate, so that just shows the toughness that Shenandoah has to be in these games. We've used the term measuring stick throughout the year. You feel like a coaching staff learns so much about a team, and particularly this year for Lynchburg. And a younger addition, when they're trying to find new faces to contribute in big ways, they've gotten it from Morgan Oliver, Michaela Hargrove, our player to watch. It'll just be a matter of who can come up big in the biggest moments.
That's kind of the story for both of these teams. You look at youth on youth right here.
Rogstad has to get it out of the way. Wilson was trailing. Now Shenandoah pressed to the other side of the field, and you see the hustle from the Hornets as Hargrove tries to earn possession. It will be a Lynchburg throw. They'll allow everyone to move forward. Rogstad enters to Hargrove, can't possess.
I like what you did there. Hustle by the Hornets. Everybody on the pitch is running.
You know, we always circle this matchup on the calendar because you get it every now and then. You got 2 teams with the same mascot. Got to clarify a little bit, and especially when they're 2 tight teams. This is not going to be a lopsided affair by any stretch. Lunden Hartzog from the midfield line, ready to boot it in. Sniffed out this time by Shenandoah. Here's Morgan Oliver. Got to watch outside the 18-yard box. She loves to shoot from any part of the field. Now goes outside to Villarreal and will switch to the far side. Hannah Phillips loses possession momentarily, but the Hornets have a throw.
I think what makes someone like Morgan Oliver so deadly is you talk about, she's not scared to fire from outside, but her skills with the ball are so underrated as well.
Here's the cross, far side. Header misdirected. Maybe a second chance ensuing. Lynchburg had a golden opportunity. And that versatility from Oliver, especially in this spot out wide, can be so lethal. Still traveling forward, and the shot denied. Lynchburg coming in droves, trying to find the opening right inside the box. Hargrove sails it high.
I mean, even that possession right there, Oliver is just a few inches away from getting a great shot on goal, and she did that by weaving through 3 Shenandoah defenders. It just tells you how good she is with the ball and how confident she is in her ability to get to her spot.
It's not every day that you have a matchup between 2 teams that are led by the same player in goals and assists. This time it happens. McKenna Newcomb for Shenandoah, and then Morgan Oliver for Lynchburg. Both lead their club in the respective stat categories, and so it's going to be interesting to see with those 2 how the defense impacts things, because Coach Elizabeth Pike for Shenandoah has talked about it. The more that you get scouted, you're not going to have those opportunities later in the year. For someone like Newcomb, who's just a sophomore, it's about learning how to play that way.
Yeah, especially when you get into these sort of conference games right here that means so much. Obviously, we know how good Newcomb is, but this is when you kind of got to be able to spread it out against such a great defense, because you're giving them the tape. You're letting them see what Newcomb can do. They're going to try to isolate that, kind of shut her down, so the rest of the squad's going to have to pick her up.
And Morgan Oliver got her goals in bunches to begin the year, 8 goals and 5 assists. Definitely attracting more defense as the year goes on. This one trickles forward. Some Shenandoah folks on the bench wanted a handball, or at least a different deflection. Tough to tell from our vantage point if it got up or if it was staying on the turf. Battling the sun once again, a 6 o'clock start here at Schellenberger Field, and so really a quarter of the field is completely lit, the rest in the shade. This time Lynchburg working forward, out to the corner, low cross, tries to sneak through, and Shenandoah out again. Dangerous opportunities when Lynchburg gets off and running. We've seen a lot of isolation lately, but also finding those wider margins of the field.
And for Lynchburg, unable to capitalize there, but those are the opportunities that have kind of been lacking these last 2 games. Right there on the doorstep, a really good cross, set up, just nobody home. They're going to continue to look for those as this game progresses.
Both of these teams still in the feel-out stages of this match. And Lynchburg perennially has dominated this series. 14-1-1 record, dating back to the first matchup in the early 2000s. But what you don't necessarily see from that stat is how close some of these games have been. Lynchburg's last 3 wins against the Hornets have been by a single tally.
I don't think we're going to see a much different affair here tonight. Both of these teams really, really competitive, really good. I think you're going to see the same note here tonight.
Early indications are that the physicality will be well awake as well. And inside the first 10 minutes of this contest, no score so far. Evan Gates and Kevin Nestor walking you through this Code Red affair in the Hill City. Another one tomorrow as the Lynchburg field hockey team plays Randolph-Macon. That's a 7 o'clock start. And then the homecoming festivities. Just keeps on getting better this week here in the middle of October. Lynchburg will earn possession again, so Den Hartzog will try to send it forward. Now Shenandoah on the run. Out on the far side, trying to get the extra tap to get past Villarreal, going all the way to the goal line, where the ball rolls over. We'll wait for the call. Looks like a corner for Shenandoah. Late deflection, first corner of the game for the Hornets.
This is an area we haven't really seen Lynchburg tested that much, at least at home, on Schellenberger. It's going to be fun to see that defensive intensity down here on their doorstep.
They've gotten burnt on the outsides by some of the runs. Here's the corner in swinging. Shepard has to be careful and just narrowly misses. Took a few pinball deflections right outside of the frame, but nothing doing for Shenandoah. The longer that it lingers in the area as you see the replay, you can tell just having more bodies, you feel like that should be slotted home. Number 11, Lauren Duffy, had a brilliant chance.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the longer it sits on that doorstep, you feel the nervous energy for both teams kind of ramp up, especially on the sidelines.
Neither squad has really dominated yet when you look at the possession stats, and so you feel like it is important to get that first goal. Lynchburg has only lost once this year when scoring first, and that was last game versus Randolph-Macon. Scored the first tally and conceded 2. Here it is in the box. Lauren Orner decides to wait, goes back outside. You can just tell it looks like this Lynchburg offense is working a little awkwardly as Shenandoah presses them into new spots, but maybe an opening opportunity and just punched above the goal. Oh, wow, the Hornets thought that was goal number 1 for sure. And after conceding that close corner on the other side, now it's Lynchburg's turn.
Beautiful set piece. As soon as you talk about Lynchburg kind of being out of sorts on offense, they find a wide open shot. It's an even better save in between the pipes.
Lauren Warner, somebody who causes trouble in the box. Here's the corner, working towards the far pipe, just away, and a brilliant save again. The scrum continues. Wow, Lynchburg getting closer and closer, and finally a goal kick.
Show you the replay here. So much action going on. Keeper just being in the right place at the right time. Goes to the ground, making that save. Shenandoah able to get it out of harm's way. Possession back to the Blue Hornets.
Morgan Musselman has earned her stripes between the pipes this season for Shenandoah. And you think about Donaldson, her goalkeeping counterpart, both freshmen this year, who have worked in tandem. They have done a brilliant job of keeping this team in matches. It's saves like that that matter. Phillips crosses to the far side, out for Oliver, who can't retain. Back and forth we go. You feel like this is that dangerous part of the game we talked about. Takes one mistake. Oliver to the goal line and can't redirect the cross.
Oliver, every move she makes, at least two defenders right on her hip. That just tells you the kind of appreciation that Shenandoah gives her with what she's been able to do this season. You can see right there that pressure amounting to a turnover.
So far, you look at the stat categories, pretty even. Lynchburg with 3 shots, Shenandoah with 2, but that's 5 in the first 14 minutes. Tells you how poised these offenses are. Now Lynchburg wants to keep pressing forward. Heading to the near side. Another scramble. Lunden Hartzog wins it momentarily. Like a tennis match. Back and forth we go.
I think that'll kind of be the story. Which team can kind of keep this energy up throughout the evening? It's a long 90 minutes to play this fast and this physical, but you get the feeling that it's going to be one of those games.
What gets really difficult for an opposition in a game like this, you got code red. You understand what this game means to everybody, is that the longer the game is tied, feels like it's so tough mentally. Continues to wear on you. Safe to say it hasn't happened yet. Peyton Lubinsky goes to the other side. Now Shenandoah pressing forward. And peppers the side of the net, and it's out for another corner.
It's a fast-paced opportunity there for Shenandoah. You see it on your screen. Just out in a hurry. Shepard actually got a hand on that one to deflect it in the side of the net.
It's the deflections like that, Kevin, which you might not see at first glance. Those can be the difference makers in a long 90-minute match. And Swinger goes through and misses to the right. Opportunity once more where Shenandoah has done really well of just putting it in the breadbasket. Nothing doing this time, and a substitution for Lynchburg. Riley Wampler steps in to replace Maddie Olson. Perhaps a change to deal with a lot of the speed that you're seeing from the Shenandoah offense. Riley Wampler has been praised highly by Coach Olson. He says she's one of the most technical players that I've ever coached. She has the ball at her feet now, looks to the other side, pass rifles through, chance for Lauren Orner, bumped off the ball. Better defense in the moment. Kirkland Wilson moves forward. Here's a Jello, and a long pass forward, but a little too tall for McKenna Newcomb. We play on. And a scoreless affair so far here in the Hill City. Lynchburg and Shenandoah, a very eventful day tomorrow across the ODAC. We'll have a lot of time to dissect what goes on. W&L facing Randolph-Macon. You talk about the top 2 teams in the conference. That can only help the 2 teams on the field.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one to keep your eyes on if you're a fan of either team.
Hargrove is coming in a hurry, but no problem that time. Tell you, the sprint happens so quickly, and Lynchburg sends numbers in a hurry. Oliver just one too many touches, and she could tell. Clap of the hands after as Shenandoah goes the other way. Off to the races, redirecting to the middle of the field. Here is Emily Sues. Out wide. Wilson ready for the cross to the goal line, and great defense from Rogstad. It'll be another corner for Shenandoah. Their third in pretty quick succession.
I think Rogstad in those positions, we're going to see a lot of that tonight. Probably going to be calling her number a lot. Really good job there defensively. She was pleading her case with the ref that she didn't get a foot on that. Ref wasn't buying it.
Quickly becoming a veteran, isn't she? Even in her sophomore year. Header sends it out of trouble for the moment. Now trickles back in the box, and Phillips exits stage right. Rogstad and the entire crew in the back line for Lynchburg so good at being there in the right spot. You see the header. Anything you can do to out-physical the other team in that stage. Cross goes near the top of the box. Wampler got her head on it. Second chance for Shenandoah. Working to the far side. Feels like this entire game has been played on either attacking third. This one trickles through and out on the far side. Kevin, how important is it in a game like that to keep your head? Because if you're an attacker, you might have 60 seconds until you're pressed back into action. You really got to remember the blueprint.
Yeah, and everything just happens so fast. You have to be playing so fast-paced but under control at the same time. It's so tough to be playing that position on the pitch, especially in a game like this.
What's interesting, too, is you look at these two teams and their attacking sides. A little bit of a different story last time out. Shenandoah wins 8-0 over Hollins, 33-3 shot advantage. 33 Hornets saw the field in that game. So you're talking committee effort. Everybody feels fresh. But maybe the biggest win of that game is that McKenna Newcomb only played 12 minutes. She got her 2 goals and got out. This is a Lynchburg team that has a very different story. Everybody was in there for high-intensity minutes. You feel like they may be a little more worn down.
Yeah, this is the part of the season where if you can take the approach that Shenandoah did, you can do it by committee and still come out with W's. You know, that always helps because you need fresh legs at this point in the season. This is where those moments kind of mean something just a little bit more.
One for the rest of the team, it's understanding the value in having a fresh McKenna Newcomb. As Rodstad gets a tap back, it looked like for a moment the seas were going to part and Shenandoah would be off and running. Now opportunity middle of the field, and poor pass from Duffy sends it Lynchburg's way. Of course, that last affair for Lynchburg, they lose 2-1 in Ashland against Randolph-Macon. Michaela Hargrove had the lone goal for the Hornets in the 17th minute. Gotta watch out now. Shenandoah still pressing forward. That was Caitlin Wall. Slow roller, and Fulmer gets it out of trouble.
Yeah, that's how fast these things can happen. You're talking about two fast-paced offenses. We're going to have a talking point. We better get it out quick. Can't stutter over your words or they'll be in the goal.
For a Code Red game, you love it, though. Keeps the fans engaged. Everybody showing up and showing out. As Lynchburg has a substitute. Another one early in the game, Ellie Goldberg, the sophomore defender. Looks like Zoe Villarreal is rubbing an eye or something on her face as she went to the bench. She'll get checked out quickly, and obviously in a game like this, you don't want to have many minutes on the bench, especially for that starting crew. Rogstad out to Oliver. Still searching. That middle of the field is wide open. The problem is there aren't any Hornets there for the moment. Hargrove looks to go left. On off the ball. Great battle ensuing as it trickles to the goal line. Anything just to get a tap, and Musselman has to dive.
Again, just to reiterate your point, a lot of physicality on both scoring thirds. It's been aggressive so far, but you love to see it. Like you said, Code Red game, big-time atmosphere. It's the type of the game these fans came to see.
You don't always use the term goal line stand in this version of football, but it feels like we're going to see it more and more as we go throughout this game because every single moment is just filled with that physicality. Two coaches that are veterans in their own right. We've said it really throughout the entire ODAC season. So many seasoned vets on the coaching staffs. Coach Todd Olson with a win can become the 9th winningest coach in NCAA women's soccer history. Morgan Oliver goes out. Another pass that's taken away. And then on the other side, Elizabeth Pike, 182 wins, the winningest coach in program history at Shenandoah. 4-year starter at American. She earned All-American honors in 1993, a Hall of Famer. Oliver searches to the other side. Hannah Phillips was ready for the header and trying to go straight down Main Street.
It's one of Lynchburg's best possessions, able to slow things down in their attacking third. Find a slashing Hannah Phillips, unable to get her head on that one, but I don't think she'll miss many opportunities like that.
That's why she's in the starting lineup. Here's the cross. Orner was ready. And it trickles away for the moment. Slowly but surely, Lynchburg has started to gain more possession. See if Shenandoah can get off on the break. Wilson looks down the field, brilliantly placed pass. Here comes Agello. To the goal line, sneaks it through, and Shepard gathers.
Yeah, beautiful job defensively there for Lynchburg. Able to keep pressure on all the way down, really on their doorstep. Shepard was ready for the cross. Nothing doing for Shenandoah that time.
Here's Hargrove. Nice move around trouble. Shenandoah trying to find any type of space at this juncture of the game, as Lynchburg has really won those one-on-one battles defensively. Now off to the sprints on the far side. Here's the shot, and Shepard moved to her left. Tell you, we've talked about the Lynchburg offense so much, but you got to give this defense their flowers. Before that Randolph-Macon game, by the way, it had been 5 straight games with Kate Shepard not allowing a goal.
Yeah, and you take a look at that replay there and just giving a little more flowers. That shot had some velocity on it. Able to get a deflection, make the save a lot easier on Shepard.
You look for a keeper who is in her first season in that true starting role. It's all about getting comfortable at this part of the year. Mid-October is on the doorstep of the ODAC tournament. You want to make sure that you are pressing into action at the right time and not taking too many risks, and Shepard has really handled it well. Here's Madeline Boyce getting her first minutes of the contest. Wearing the captain's armband, she will step in to replace Hannah Phillips. The aforementioned swap in the starting lineup, and Kevin adding Boyce with just about 20 minutes left in the first half. You feel like that's strategic to have a little more speed and a little more fresh legs.
Yeah, 100%. And you hit the nail right on the head there. Someone that fast and that caliber, if you can have her super fresh at this point in the game with as quick and as physical as this game's been, it's only going to benefit your squad. We're going to see her get in action early here.
Pressing to the middle of the field. So many of these players that had big minutes against Randolph-Macon. You want to make sure they're feeling good to go. Speed once again to move forward. Goldberg defensively having to press back. Shenandoah just trying to get the edge. A rugby scrum near the goal line. More maneuvering. Cross goes all the way over and files through to the near touchline. You think Shenandoah understands the importance of starting hot, because they've played so many ranked opponents where if you don't start in that way, the game's already over by the time you start thinking about it. It's been an intensity, but at the right volume. See what's in store next. Another nice move. Back to the middle of the field. The pass exits all the way out. Cross lofting. Who wants the shot is the question, as Morgan Oliver does nicely to get the tackle. Pass down the field to Hargrove. Now she wants to sprint forward. Space against Audrey Atwell. Closing into the box and take it away. Not enough contact for the referee's liking, and we play on to the other side. Hargrove a little shaken up behind the play. And
we're nearly 30 minutes in but you're seeing the physicality continue to ramp up. You see it there on the replay. It's still both of these squads looking to find that upper hand.
And Kev, I don't think that was as much trying to earn a penalty as it was she was just truly shaken up after that. You're seeing those one-on-one encounters, you know, and it gets more physical. That's the toughest part of the game, trying to not show your emotions too much, keep the mental in check, but also understanding it is a long, exhausting affair.
Yeah, and, you know, for something like that, you know, credit to the ref. There wasn't that much contact there to draw a penalty, but that was an extremely hard tumble to the ground. And like you said, that's not as much trying to draw a foul as it is. That's just a really, really hard fall for minimal contact.
Everybody's human out there, including your player to watch, Michaela Hargrove. Now it's a chance for a set piece. Lynchburg's been really proficient in this category. We'll see if they can do it. Lunden Hartzog ready to lunge forward. Here it is in swinger, and it's just high. Won't find the head of anyone, and frustrating for this Lynchburg coaching staff as you try to pack the box. That's what Shenandoah has really done well early in this game. They're making sure they get bodies in front of the goalkeeper, and some of those corners could have been really easily goals if they weren't defended well. Back to the middle of the field, and here is Boyce trying to use that height to her advantage. Spins out of trouble, and the referee will whistle. Shenandoah takes over. No score yet. Inside 16 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah, there's that physicality on your screen. Just going back to it, that's the type of game that these players sign up for at this stage in the season. That's what these games mean, especially the in-conference slate.
It might be a different blueprint if these two teams see each other later in the year. There's a nice move to get around Olsen. That's McKenna Newcomb in a heartbeat, but won't retain possession. You wonder what it means in the middle of the ODAC slate. You've already had a few games. You know you're tight with the other opponent in those standings. Boyce goes out wide, and keeper has no problem. Another nice save from Musselman. Look at that move, and Ava Olsen has been a starter every game this year for Lynchburg. You know what she can do on the field, but fancy footwork, able to stifle the defense. And Hartzog sends it all the way forward. Shenandoah has a throw. Bouncer to the middle of the field. Wampler defending tightly. And what was a very slow, methodical game between Virginia Wesleyan and Lynchburg, not a lot of combined shots, has turned into an absolute burner in this one. No time wasted on the starting line. And Morgan Oliver, brilliant run to get out in front. She has an inch of space. Working back to the center, here's the cross, and it trickles all the way over.
You talk about the speed and the high intensity of this game so far. I think you're going to start to pick up on this trend that there is a slew of warm-up pennies on both sidelines getting loose, ready to go. It's definitely going to be one of those by-committee games we like to talk about.
What's interesting is we haven't seen a large number of substitutes yet. Mostly strategic stuff or related to injuries. We saw Zoe Villarreal was a little shaken up. This time it goes over the line, goal kick Shenandoah, and you wonder in these last 15 or so minutes what that looks like and which coach is a little more active. Back to the middle of the field, Shenandoah finding any sort of space. How about Lunden Hartzog? 2 goals to her name as a defender this year. Great way to get possession back. Oliver wants to run, and the pass a little too far.
Yeah, I like the love to Lunden Hartzog there. She's kind of been one of those silent heroes for this team, stepping into a role in that back line that was predominantly filled by players like Haley Casey in the last 4 years, and she steps in and she's done it beautifully. You mentioned the 2 goals, but it's plays like that. You don't necessarily talk about all that much, but they happen quite often from number 4. It's a big staple for this Lynchburg team.
We talked about it earlier in the year. Tradition matters for this Lynchburg women's soccer team, and that goes all the way down to the numbers. You're not wearing Haley Casey's number 4 by mistake, and Lunden Hartzog has a lot of similar qualities. And the way she attacks the game, she commands that back line even as a freshman. Substitutes coming into the game now. Tegan Casey will enter for Lynchburg along with Lainey Richmond, and then Shenandoah change of their own. It's Reagan Burfiend. Casey chased out wide. Here's Rogstad directing traffic. Cross goes all the way in. Nicely placed, but can't earn possession long enough. Starting to get physical here in the Hill City. 2 teams that have really fought their way through the conference slate. Some tough opponents. And now is the time to shine. This could be one of those games as well that you see fall into the 3-6 line of a conference tournament. Shenandoah was slated 6th in the preseason poll. Lynchburg right there at 3rd. Here's Warner. Extra space and the pass to nobody. Taken away, and here comes Agello. Newcomb give and go. One more, and Kate Shepard off her line. This is such a tough style to analyze, Kevin, because we've seen so much happen, and there hasn't really been 1 or 2 trends that have stuck out other than the fact that these teams probably think they've missed some opportunities here and there, and you're seeing that physicality on your screen at home. It just feels like it's one of those rough-it-up games.
Yeah, it's just been so high energy. And you kind of expect that from both of these teams with the slew of competition that they've played this year, kind of getting that blueprint ready to go for these type of games. For Lynchburg, doing it on Code Red night, now that the sun's gone down a little bit, we can actually see the ocean of bodies over there. We'll see how that 12th man effect kind of plays into this game in the later stages.
You love that impact in the second half. Passionate Lynchburg crowd trying to will the attack onto a goal. Here comes Rogstad, ready to fire with the left foot. Clean save all the way, and Musselman didn't have to move an inch. Perhaps that's the type of goal it will require to go out and take the lead. Outside the 18, a little bit of a gutsy call, but Sammy Rogstad has always been so close. If you go back to last year's Code Red game against Washington and Lee, 3-2 defeat here in the Hill City, but it was Sammy Rogstad in the final 60 seconds that was post close to tying it up. Didn't have that extra inch or 2 on the top shelf to slot it home. As Goldberg sends the clearance out wide.
Well, I mentioned earlier we'd be saying her name quite a bit here tonight. I didn't think we'd be doing it in that context, but it's an underrated part of her game when you really think about it. Again, you talk about being inches away from well beyond the 18. She's ready to make keepers pay if they're not on their toes, ready to get after it.
That game against Washington and Lee, where the Lynchburg team was down late, as Den Hartog gets a foot on it, another corner for Shenandoah. You know, it really gave you hope when Lynchburg got that goal in the final few minutes to make it 3-2 that they could come back, and they were vicious in that attack. We haven't necessarily seen that on Schellenberger Field yet this year. We saw a trio of lopsided affairs to start the year. Lynchburg went 3-0, and then a scoreless draw against Virginia Wesleyan. Here's the corner, goes near post. You got to be careful now. Still moving all around the bodies, and Lynchburg finds a foot to get it out of trouble.
Yeah, and you talk about that Washington and Lee game last year. I think that fits the bill whenever you think about what a Code Red game is. And, you know, the number 1 team in the conference coming to play, or a high-scoring affair like that, definitely brought the energy. I think tonight we might not see as much scoring, but the energy is definitely still out there on the pitch.
Another substitute for Shenandoah, 16, Alexis Andrews steps in. senior forward from Manassas, Virginia. One of the two seniors who started their career at Shenandoah, finishing up this year. Peyton Lubinsky, the other. Clearance from the Hornets, trying to go back to the midfield, and Tegan Casey does what she can. Header goes out towards the crowd. Mentioned there is one more senior on the Shenandoah team, Cameron Shackford, who has 1 goal and an assist this year as well. 2023 All-ODAC third team selection, but that was with Roanoke. So switching clubs in the conference. Adds a little bit of veteran leadership to a team that desperately wants to have senior impact. Rolls all the way to Musselman. No problem at the top of the box. Seeing some stellar minutes from some of those bench players for Lynchburg. Lainey Richmond has been up top, number 27 in white. Ellie Goldberg on the back line. Don't forget Madeline Boyce was the late entry. And about 20 minutes to go in the half. We're now outside of 6 remaining. Pass files to Goldberg, who gets her chest on it. Now it goes to the other side. Shenandoah on the prowl. Andrews, brilliant spot for Wilson, who couldn't be quick enough.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the substitutions and the minutes played by those subs. I think it just kind of gives you a feel for what type of game this is, especially when you look over on the sideline. You see someone like Morgan Oliver for Lynchburg, who's been on the sideline north of 10 minutes now.
Looping ball all the way back to Kate Shepard. Climbs the ladder. The minute stat can sometimes be a little overanalyzed in soccer. You think about who's out there at the big moments, but there is a big disparity between these two teams. This Lynchburg club entered today having 9 players who had started every single match. And Shenandoah, as we said, going with 25 different starters across the course of the year. Just shows what Coach Todd Olson believes, and it's all about consistency. Even with a new team where he has said expectations are so tough to try and set with a lot of new faces. Madeline Boyce tries to get there on the far side. And a late clearance, so a throw for Lynchburg in the attacking third.
I think that's what makes, this Lynchburg team so impressive when you talk about, they've had 9 starters throughout the season that have played or started in every game. Yet there hasn't really been that one standout. We talk about how good Morgan Oliver is and Michaela Hargrove, but they've really been a committee effort considering that they've had such a steady core.
You see the assist tally that has continued to rise throughout the year as well. That just goes to show. It requires everybody's effort. The 1 goal against Randolph-Macon was assisted. Lauren Orner was able to get the pass to Michaela Hargrove. This is a Lynchburg team desperately trying to rejuvenate the offense. Goes back out to the top. Here's Rogstad. A tap inside, give and go. Starting to see these little openings. And Kevin, what was interesting about the goal against Randolph-Macon, it was really a goalkeeping mistake for the Yellow Jackets. Goalkeeper held it for too long, and Lauren Warner found her foot with it and just passed to Hargrove right in the middle of the box. So you haven't seen this Lynchburg team create a true offensive goal in over 2 matches if you go back to the scoreless draw against Virginia Wesleyan. So how important is it to keep that confidence in this game, knowing, yes, you've still got that firepower?
Well, I don't think confidence is as much of an issue as it is just taking advantage of opportunities, because while they haven't found a bunch of goals, they've had the opportunities there. It's just being able to capitalize, being in the right place at the right time, and executing when you have those opportunities to get on the scoreboard.
Feels like across the ODAC this year, as both players take a tumble, Shenandoah keeps it. It's about offense. It's been the big part of the game that hasn't necessarily been proven yet. The defenses have shown up in big ways. So you see Rogstad go down to the ground, and Alexandra Sarek was able to get the throw for Shenandoah inside 3 minutes in the first half. Cross goes all the way to the far side, and a whiff as it results in a goal kick.
think a lot of what the theme of these games are kind of the opposite of what our notes tells us coming into it, because early on, a lot of our talking points was about the young defense and how are they going to play, and we didn't really see them a lot because of the offensive firepower. So we turn the page and we start talking about the goals scored and how Lynchburg's doing it at such an efficient clip. Then all of a sudden you get a 0-0 draw against Virginia Wesleyan. It's just kind of one of those announcer's curses, if you will.
That's right. That's why a book has more than one page. Boyce goes all the way towards the goal line, and Lynchburg earns a corner. That is a big-time spot for Boyce, using her speed on the far side, because Lynchburg loves to gather their corners. The page Lynchburg wants to land on is finding a goal, especially at this juncture of the first half. Both coaches likely already rehearsing what they're going to tell their teams after 45 minutes. It would be a big punch in the mouth if Lynchburg could find the advantage. See if Shenandoah's defense remains strong. It goes out to Wampler, who couldn't even get her head on it. Shenandoah finds the other side. Good footwork, but how about the tap from Olsen? Runs back outside. Richmond, low cross to the middle. The chance, and it's far left.
And again, another one of those opportunities where Lynchburg, that's where they work their best, when you kind of get that very fast transition from defense to offense and you have the numbers. Just got to be able to capitalize on opportunities. It's a beautiful cross. Chance was there, just out wide.
That play develops because of what Ava Olsen did. Mentioned earlier in the game, some fancy footwork from the opposing Hornets. Earned an advantage as Ava Olsen was playing defense this time. She comes back with a big stab of her own. Now middle of the field, Shenandoah through ball sent all the way. And none else than Olsen to send it to the crowd. 30 seconds to go. Shenandoah going to elect to have a different player take the throw. We'll see if they know how many ticks remain. Now 20 seconds. Hornets press to the outside of the box. Still scurrying forward. And the clearance sends it to the midfield. We have a lot to learn here on Schellenberger. Two teams that have tussled back and forth the entire Tuesday night. And the scoreline won't say anything about it yet. We'll have to wait and see in the second 45 minutes if there's a difference maker in the cards. But so far, it's Lynchburg nothing, Shenandoah nothing. We'll be back on the other side with halftime stats and analysis as you watch the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network. 45 down, 45 to go in the Hill City, and still a scoreless scoreline. But we have seen each team's fair share of chances. You see Lynchburg having opportunities and better goalkeeping, even with the set pieces that we have seen throughout the evening. Kevin, you feel like the corners, the free kicks, they have all evaporated very quickly as these two squads have found their footing in the back line.
Yeah, but I think offensively the game plan doesn't change much because whenever they get out and run in, both teams have been really efficient at getting good opportunities, good looks, and you're seeing a lot of them on your screen here, just narrow misses. So I think the game plan is working. It's just the execution needs to be a little bit better in the second half.
The question to be answered, which Hornet squad has the heroics in the second half? Will we see another scoreless draw here on Schellenberger? There's a lot to discover, but let's take a look at the first half stats, and the numbers still closer to 0 than you see to double digits. It's been a very defensive affair. The shots just 11 combined, but it has been a very even spread.
Yeah, it's been pretty even so far, and I think a lot of that credits to both defensive units. We gave a lot of love to the offensive firepowers on both of these squads, but it's been the defensive units really kind of keeping this game even keel for both teams, keeping them in it.
The two big notes for Lynchburg so far, Madeline Boyce did not start. It was Hannah Phillips who was a newcomer in the starting lineup, and Boyce entered with about 20 minutes to go in the first half. You wonder if she will go out there to start the second 45 minutes. And then Zoe Villarreal left the game in the middle of the first half. Looked like she would be okay, but the athletic trainer, Brittany Smith, checking on her to make sure she's good to go in the second. And that kind of speaks to the physicality we've talked about. You feel like it's so important to get a good start, to have energy, but it is truly one mistake and you're out of this game. So how do these two coaches make sure that their team isn't the one having the error?
I think just sticking to the game plan and the strategy that you come into the game with in the first half. We've seen a little bit of gamesmanship from both coaches, the way they're playing subs, the way they're flipping their lineups here. It'll be interesting to see if that continues with the start here in the second half or if they go back to what they know, and that's kind of been that winning formula for both of these teams. I really think what sticks out to me is just the defense. I mean, we've seen good offensive sets from both of these teams, just better defense on both ends of the field. I think eventually one of these offenses is going to be able to crack through. It's just a matter, like you said, which Hornet squad is it going to be?
McKenna Newcomb, by the way, who has over 70 shots on this season, 13th in Division III for the most attempts, doesn't have a shot on the day. So credit Lynchburg's back line. They have gone after those main characters on the other side. But likewise, Shenandoah has really shut down those players like Morgan Oliver and Lauren Orner. It's just going to be a question of when that opportunity arrives at the doorstep, who capitalizes.
Yeah, 100%. Execution is the name of the game. We thought we were going to see it a little bit in the first half because normally both of these teams, we've seen them get off to sluggish starts, but it's usually whoever can take advantage first usually holds on to get the victory. No one took advantage in the first half, so it's going to kind of be that same message being sent to start the second half. Which team comes out with the energy, which one can crack first, and can that carry over to the last 45?
So much to play for at this stage of the season. Lynchburg 4th, Shenandoah 6th in the ODAC standings, both with 3 wins apiece in that department. Who has the extra footwork to get forward and perhaps pick up 3 points in this contest? Off and running, Shenandoah wastes no time. Into the box, dangerous spot, and the shot sniffed out. Lynchburg's defense just a step ahead this time. Here's Villarreal. We mentioned her name in the first half. She does return to start the second, and Shepard pressed into action early.
And immediately you see the intensity ramp up. Shenandoah's offense, Lynchburg defense, both not giving an inch. Just a matter of who makes a mistake first and allows the other team to capitalize. I think you're going to see a lot of that in the second half.
We continued that storyline in the Virginia Wesleyan match. The problem was neither team made the mistake. It ends up in a scoreless draw. So for this game in particular, you feel like the first 10 minutes are really going to set the tone because we saw tempo in that first half. A lot of quick moves and quick passes. And it looks like more of the same so far from Shenandoah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you've seen how consistent these defenses have been throughout the season. It's not as simple as just pulling out the clipboard and drawing up a play like it is in other sports, but it's the offense that's going to have to come up with something for one of these teams to be able to crack the defensive armor of the other Hornet team and get on the scoreboard first.
It's not just this year where defense has been the primary contributor for this Lynchburg team. By the way, they start the season with 4 straight shutouts, first time since 1999 that they've done that and tied the best in program history. But you got to go back to last season This team didn't allow a goal in their first 7 wins of the year. You feel like it was 1 goal or 2 goals, and that was enough for Lynchburg to get wins. Might be a similar setting today. Hargrove out wide, now far side of the field. And the Hornets just trying to find any space to operate. Shenandoah takes the throw right in front of the Lynchburg crowd that will certainly be animated here in the second half, trying to will this team to a victory on Code Red Night. All the student athletes will make their way to the track or inside Turner Gymnasium on days like this. Just a special atmosphere, and it really builds the experience here for so many of the athletes in the Hill City. Pass files to the middle. Here's Wampler. Few steps forward. Hornets pressing outside the box, slow roller, and better save from Musselman. Got her fingertips out wide, and it looks like for a moment she had almost stumbled trying to read where that ball would go through.
Really good execution there from Shenandoah defensively. Lynchburg had a pretty good look on the offensive side. A deflection on the shot allowed Musselman to kind of regain her feet, get back to the save.
Musselman, the primary keeper for Shenandoah, as you see another look at this shot. It did take a late deflection off one of the Shenandoah defenders, but it is a case for Musselman where she has split time for starts throughout the season. Player down middle of the field, and as an extra second is taken for the referee to go over, you see a lot of the Lynchburg fans getting into it. Mentioned if you haven't had all the fun yet in tonight's Code Red affair, I'm glad you haven't, because there is some more coming tomorrow. Wednesday night affair for the field hockey team as they take on Randolph-Macon.
See the replay there, that tumble again. It's one of those, not enough to draw a foul whistle. And again, credit to the refs. Not a lot of contact there, just an awkward landing.
So tricky to try and decipher, especially throughout a match where you're trying to hold the precedent as the referee.
And a game that it's this physical, it's so tough. Kind of balancing the sword there.
Pass falls harmlessly over the goal line for a goal kick. Sun setting here in the Hill City. Still a lot of game to be played. Over 40 minutes. 6 games tomorrow and 5 ODAC affairs. This is the lone contest in the conference on this Tuesday evening. The only out-of-conference affair tomorrow will be a good one. Virginia Wesleyan at Christopher Newport. That's a 7:30 start time over on the coast. 2 teams that find perennial success. And then in conference, W&L travels to Randolph-Macon. The one to keep your eye on between the top 2 teams in the ODAC standings. A little extra contact as Phillips has to let this one roll.
I think if you're a fan of soccer and you're just looking for something to watch tomorrow, either one of those games would be a coin flip for me. Like you said, Virginia Wesleyan and CNU, that one's going to be great. And then the 2 top teams in the ODAC going to battle. Which one's going to come out undefeated?
I mean, goodness, you're glad you get a Tuesday evening game for this one, so you got the primetime viewership spot, because if you're trying to trickle between the 3 other ones, it's going to be difficult. And certainly a lot of great teams across the conference. That's not the problem for the ODAC. I think the issue is trying to get to the next level. And the NCAA tournament here in the last few years has only featured 1 club from the ODAC. As Hargrove centers the pass, pushes all the way to the other side. Now a chance, and deflection. Oliver had some sting on that shot. Second chance, driven to the middle. Here's Hargrove. Extra step, just harassed 2 or 3 defenders. Heading to the middle of the field and a little bit quicker. Can someone sneak through the line? Now the Hornets way outside. Oliver loses possession. Shenandoah will take over.
You talk about the deflection. I mean, that ball It was kicked with a ton of velocity.
That was a rocket right down the middle.
Ball was nearly emasculated.
Morgan Oliver is one of those players that has no fear going to the middle of the box, and she is certainly going to be ready to go at every time. Shenandoah ready, trying to center back in the midfield. Lynchburg trying to build a residence in the attacking third. Villarreal, nice work. Chested up during possession. Now the ball runs over the touchline near side. Longer throw back to the middle. Here's Phillips. Haven't really talked about those main forwards for Shenandoah yet. It might take a few seconds for them to enter the picture. Close spot. And the attacker just driven off the ball. Shepard was feet away.
Another big-time moment there for the Shenandoah offense, but you just got to give that credit, like we're talking about defensively.
And manifest almost out of nothing. Lynchburg back line now on its heels. Fulmer sends it out.
I think that's what's so frustrating about these games is you sort of get that negative connotation around a scoreboard that's got double zeros on it, but there's been so much fun and so much energy in this game. If you look away from the scoreboard, if you've got a seat in the house, you know that's not the case at all. This one's been a fun one.
Might just be one goal that's enough to cause a disparity on the scoreboard. Throw deep in the corner now. Lynchburg team back to the line. Shepard bobbles momentarily. Able to gather. This Lynchburg team in 4 home matches hasn't allowed a goal here on Shellenberger Field, trying to make it a 5th. Hargrove back to the middle. Here's Orner. Loses possession. There's McKenna Newcomb. She has been heckled in the middle of the field, and you see the Hornets not afraid to get out of position. Now to the other side. Better move from Burfield. How about the defense from Rogstad? Fresh green ahead. Opportunity now. The pass all the way forward to Phillips. Trying to play catch up, and Musselman gets her gloves on it. Referee will call the foul. Wow, it looks like Phillips barely clipped her. That was a difficult one. Referee now wanting to have a chat. Make sure everyone is good to go.
We'll get another look of it here.
That's so difficult as an attacker. You want to stay out of the way as best as you can, but you also understand you're not focused on the goalkeeper. You're focused on the ball rolling towards the net.
Probably one of the more friendly calls of the game so far tonight. We haven't heard the whistle a lot. And credit to the refs letting them play. It's been a very physical game. We've mentioned that a bunch. It's hard not to when you see the action going on the pitch.
Very much a play-on style of game so far, as 2 substitutes enter, Cassidy Collins and Emily Sues for Shenandoah. Throw is on the far side. Lynchburg has definitely earned opportunities. Who can capitalize in the attacking third? Both coaches have cited that as a reason for victory. Might be the deciding factor. Villarreal on the back line, used to be in a part of the attack for Lynchburg. Wampler reverses. Now running on the far side is Oliver. Here it is. Fired into the box. Hargrove trying to keep possession. You might have 2 or 3 seconds in a game like this. It has been so quick. Both teams so adamant about getting the ball back.
Yeah, you got to give Lynchburg a lot of credit there offensively, moving the ball around, continuing to kind of slow down their possessions, look for something. But then again, kind of the moral of the story here tonight, defensively, Shenandoah everywhere, not allowing any sort of clear shot lane or passing lane for that matter.
Both teams right around 50% for shots on goal. As you see some of the encounters in the middle of the field. We've talked about how players might go out there and try to earn the call too, and we've seen a few times where the Hornets are in vulnerable spots of the field trying to earn them, but it truly, as we said, has been more about physicality and roughing up throughout the game. Andrews forward in the middle to Newcomb. Few extra steps and just loses it. Fulmer does better to go to the sideline.
I think we've seen a lot more action, especially right here in this midfield area, than we did the entire first half. It was so back and forth in the first half, and now you're kind of seeing the fight for possession take place right around the midfield stripe. Kind of been the story so far in the second half. Which team can maintain that possession and get into an offensive set that can benefit them?
Audrey Atwell and Caitlin Wall into the game for Shenandoah. And Kevin, doesn't it feel like this game has primarily been played along the touchlines? We've seen the midfield play, but on a lot of these attacks, they're happening from the wider parts.
Yeah, it has been a really near-sided game, really. The near-side touchline seen a lot of action. We saw it in the first half as well, kind of picking up where it left off. Just said nothing really kind of happening. In the middle of the field, we saw a couple of cross chances, just nothing forming for either squad offensively.
Ball rolls, and now the reversal and an opening. Morgan Oliver has speed and space. Out to the logo, now back the other way. That will be a whistle from the referee. And a free kick. Lunden Hartzog has a chance to deposit it right in the box. So an opportunity earlier for a free kick, much closer for Lynchburg that sailed over the crossbar. See what the draw up is this time. Perhaps some similar ingredients. Lofted onto the near side, header by Wampler, straight to the keeper.
Den Hartog has been so good at that. I mean, just talk about managing where you're at on the field. She has been so good kind of placing those passes in a spot that her players can get them. And again, here tonight, we saw it a couple of times from her and Rogstad both. Beautiful dimes, just unable to capitalize with anything offensively.
There's a hefty expectation on Den Hartog as well. In her first 6 collegiate matches, she played 90 minutes in 5 of them. And also continues that similar pace because she's logged 90 minutes in back-to-back matches. Contributes on the offensive end as well. Same can be said for Sammy Rogstad. Under 30 minutes to play. Still no score on Schellenberger Field.
I think those are the opportunities that Lynchburg kind of just wishes they could capitalize a bit more on. You saw, the whistle get blown, Morgan Oliver down on the field. That's kind of the draw for her. She's so good in open space. And the defender, you saw it right there. That was a prime example. You just don't know where she's going to go when she's got the rock at her foot. And you just kind of get caught up. You get one of those free kick opportunities. It's those situations like that Lynchburg, they've been stressing they've got to be better on whenever they get them.
Well, in a game like this, when the offenses have been shut down, set pieces are so crucial. Seen both sides try to get an inch. Warner sends the pass out wide. Here is Morgan Oliver. Taken away. Second lofted ball placed in front. Phillips just misses. Whiffed on the kick. Tries to go back out wide. Villarreal recenters. And Musselman can stay and collect.
Kind of the story for this Lynchburg offense for the last 3 or 4 games has been those offensive opportunities like you just saw get squandered again. The ball just lands in a golden spot to capitalize offensively and unable to come away with anything.
Emily Sues was right there. The other 14 on the field for Shenandoah just didn't have any play on it. Anna Phillips, if she could have corralled it cleanly, would have been in business. Newcomb out wide. Now all the way to the goal line and nothing doing. Shenandoah 1-4-1 on the road this year, a record that has not been kind. They have handled all the pressure with a lot of ease, and perhaps it's just a product of playing tougher opponents on the road. Won their 2 games at home last week, Bridgewater and Hollins. They'll be back in the Hill City later in the week to play Randolph. Of course, Lynchburg setting up shop right here on campus for homecoming weekend. Business doesn't get any easier with Washington and Lee looming. Kirkland Wilson re-enters the contest. She'll replace Olivia Danielle. Sues with the throw in. Low cross. Lynchburg finally able to get the throw and try to boot it down the other side of the field.
And you talk, kind of about that record in the early part of this season. Again, I think that just goes to you're trying to build that DNA and blueprint for your team as the season goes on. Again, you saw Shenandoah. They played 4 of the top 18 teams, 3 of them out of conference. That just tells you the kind of schedule they're trying to build for the squad that they believe that they have and the capabilities in the ODAC.
Well, Coach Pike talked about it, and she said, it's all about trying to create a strong strength of schedule. You recognize you want to be ready and to ultimately improve upon what you already have, whether it's formations or styles of play. Those teams expose a lot of things you don't see at the conference level, and they prepare you for later in the season. And so now, feels like the Shenandoah team has been tested in every way, even playing the #1 team in the nation, Messiah. Long run for Hannah Phillips, chasing on the near touchline. Clearance actually hit the referee. Flag goes down. But we play forward. Lynchburg with a chance and Villarreal with a throw.
This is one of those opportunities for Lynchburg. You've had a couple of them tonight. You haven't been able to capitalize. You've got to get something going.
Might just start with possession. There's been a brick wall between that attacking third and the rest of the field. Now Ava Olson trying to go back and get the right angle. Hornets tic-tac-toe on the near side. Villarreal. Cross. Dies as it goes to the middle. Little extra pressure. Villarreal couldn't sneak it through. You talk about Shenandoah facing tough teams. Well, Lynchburg has faced a tough road schedule, and it's not necessarily who they've played, but how far they've had to go. They've been on the road in the last 5 weekends. This homecoming weekend will be the first time that they play on Schellenberger Field for that type of Saturday affair. You really appreciate bringing it back, as it's been all the way at the beginning of the season since we last saw that, the Schellenberger Classic. Shenandoah on the prowl. Brilliant pass forward, and Villarreal able to get the deflection. Or it will actually be a goal kick. Beg your pardon. Looks like no deflection on its way out.
I think it's just a really good job there. Villarreal pressuring the ball handler. I mean, he saw there was a lane there. Chance to get something going for Shenandoah, but just again, credit defensive unit Villarreal that time. Able to kind of rush her off of her spot. Not let her get the shot she was looking for.
Another roller over the far touchline. Offense coming in burst here in the last few minutes. Either squad just trying to find a surge. Here's Morgan Oliver. Again, the one-on-one play. Able to get through for the moment. The pass into Lauren Orner. Perhaps the Hornets have started to cook. Goes to Phillips. To the middle. The shot takes a weird deflection to the other side. Warner goes to Oliver. Closer to the box. Is this the moment? Rolls all the way through. everything but the connection. And now a goal kick for Shenandoah.
Again, just opportunity after opportunity. What was it, 3 or 4 different chances for Lynchburg there? Golden chances right on the doorstep, and just errant shots or no one home on the crosses.
A frustrating bout for Hannah Phillips, who had a few windows opening. Couldn't finish at that time, and the score remains knotted up at nothing. Madeline Boyce, extra energy in the middle of the field. Coming off the bench, as we said, that resurgence going to be so important. Now the pass in. Here's Hargrove. Fancy footwork. The shot lofted and too wide. Better urgency for a Lynchburg team that is starting to sniff it. They need a goal in the final 22 minutes.
Yeah, and so for Lynchburg, you know, we talked about it in the first half when we first saw Madeline Boyce come in. This is the time where this strategy, this is the time you implement it for. You've played the game, you haven't gotten your score, but you bring in some speed and some energy, fresh legs on the outside. That's what you bring her in for, that spark plug. You got to get something going with Madeline Boyce.
Little contact in the middle of the field. Here comes Sammy Rogstad. She is on the prowl. This is a team that wants to go quick. They've waited all evening to try and exert that energy. And it just feels like every pocket has been occupied. Now on the far side, towards the goal line. Hargrove battling, and it rolls out for a throw. Round 2, but this time too early a touch and a goal kick. Here comes Lauren Duffy into the game for Shenandoah. She replaces Emily Sues. Code Red contest here in the 4-3-4, living up to the expectation of being a tight match for two teams that each have 3 wins in conference play.
I think we tried our best to talk it up, and the closing moments of the last game on Shelley with Virginia Wesleyan just kind of feels like this is the environment, this is the energy that happens, where one of these moments from one of these teams, you're going to capitalize on and break this thing open any point in time.
Well, truly a game like this will test you in every which way. You think about trying to get an even matchup. The conditions are great, it's clear. You don't have either squad being extremely taxed from other games. And it just comes down to who has it in the final few minutes. We've arrived at that part of the game. Cassidy Collins goes to the sideline for Shenandoah. Ball rolling to the near side. Hargrove takes a tumble again.
A bit more contact than we've been seeing all night. Actually brought Coach Olson all the way up the sideline, showing a little bit of displeasure with the refs.
Pressure starts to mount at this point of the game. Here's Newcomb, redirects, and it's out for a corner. The deflection from Villarreal, who has been really sharp at staying in front today.
Set the corner up. Coach Olson's actually up near the midfield line, still having a discussion with one of the neon shirts.
You don't want these little moments to be the one that ends your team's chances, as the header goes back to the outside of the box, and a large boot from Rogstad. Lynchburg's lone series loss against Shenandoah happened in 2019. It was a 2-1 affair on the road. They're a perfect 10-0 here on Schellenberger against the opposing Hornets. Trying to maintain that streak in a series where they have the advantage 14-1-1. Shepard close to going off her line. Slides with no problem. That was a professional save.
A couple of really good possessions for Shenandoah, starting with the corner. Really good set piece opportunity there. Header just a little bit offline. Rockstad able to get the clear. And then there, we saw a really fast transition piece. Worked out. Just a better save from Shepard.
Truly fearless in so many of those big moments.
Yeah, I almost caught myself saying a save from Shepard between the pipes, but that was well outside the goal.
That's the versatility you want from a goalkeeper, too, to be confident enough to time that run. Seen it a few times already in this game. Wampler reverses. Here's Villarreal. Lynchburg inching forward. The pass played in front. Wampler can't get it cleanly. Everyone just continuing to run. Villarreal sneaks one back, and the pass from Warner will bring Oliver way outside. Defense so far has proven to be a little too tall for either offense. And as we emerge into the final minutes, you want everybody to be ready to go. Pass to the outside, sniffed out. This is a situation where you love to have Madeline Boyce close to the ball, especially when it's in the air. Going to win so many more headers. Ball is at her feet. Looks to go down the line, and the pass just a little too early. And out for a goal kick. Over 16 minutes to play. For the final 6 matches will be played right here at Schellenberger Field for Lynchburg. That's including this one. Still 3 home games to go in October. And you would love to see a home match or 2 in the ODAC tournament. It is a point system, so you're rewarded for winning matches a little bit more than a tie. 3 points for a win, 1 for a draw. That's where when you scoreboard watch, you see these other teams that end up getting wins in games like this. It can be such a disparity. You don't want to wait until the end of the season to try and prove you belong in the NCAA picture. You want to prove it with a resume throughout the year. Villarreal inserts to Hargrove. All sorts of traffic. Another ball played forward. The one-on-ones. Hargrove able to get through. Goes down in the box. The cross deflected. Everybody everywhere. Now Boyce in the middle. What feels like a war of attrition so far continues to crawl forward. You see Boyce had a brilliant window, just couldn't loft it high enough.
Yeah, a lot of action and physicality in the last 30 seconds or so.
Hargrove tries to curl it inside. A shot on target, just doesn't get past the keeper, Musselman.
I think that's kind of what Lynchburg's got to get back to, those quick shots, being able to find the clear lanes, because if you're doing like they have been the majority of this game, trying to slow things down and get something set up, you're just allowing Shenandoah to clog those passing lanes and shot lanes and maybe get a deflection. It's creating more turnovers instead of good looks on goal. Good job there by Hargrove to try to find a spark for this Lynchburg offense.
You rely on your attackers so much at the end of the game as this one peppers the crossbar. Shepard went upstairs and couldn't find it. Second attempt well high. That will stop you in your tracks. That one from Boonesboro and narrowly snuck through.
It's a beautiful opportunity, and again, just from out of nowhere, well outside the 18, coming up with something from nothing. And I mean, we've said inches away a couple of times, but that right there is the definition.
That is fight or flight if you're Kate Shepard between the pipes. Aforementioned point was going to be you got to rely on the attack in a spot like this when your midfielders are running so much. They're going to be out of breath in the final few minutes. And instead, it doesn't matter where you're at on the field in that case. Everybody craning their necks. Somehow still scoreless.
Those are the type of things that we've come to expect from this Lynchburg team. And players like Morgan Oliver more specifically, but Shenandoah is showing they're not scared to fire from deep either.
Well, not only that, but how many chances have we seen from outside the 18 by Lynchburg? It hasn't been many. We saw Hargrove try to wind and fire on the other side.
If you're Lynchburg offensively, if you're not getting anything going with the sets that you're running inside just because of the defensive presence, I mean, do you look for more of those opportunities?
It's so tricky because possession has not exactly been easily earned in this game. Do you want to risk losing it? That will certainly wake some spectators up inside 12 minutes to go because that is a opportunity that Shenandoah really feels like they'd love to have back. Can't execute that shot any better, but it's some of those swings that can decide a match. Pass forward, and Hargrove has all sorts of space. Defender fell to the turf. Here it is, extra tap, the entry, all the way lofted. Musselman finally collects cleanly. Had to go on a scavenger hunt to the near pipe.
And again, Lynchburg, an opportunity. This is the first time we've seen a cross with a couple of Lynchburg Hornets in position to make something happen. That time to pass just a little bit long. Allows Shenandoah to get under it. A great job by Musselman. Refining her footing there. Getting on top of that ball before anything harmful happens.
Lynchburg searching for options. They wait to bring the attack forward. Here it is, another cross lofted. Boyce gets ahead on it. Now second chance, and Hargrove has it deflected. There's the height on display. Now Shenandoah out the back door. Agello searching for an opening, and Villarreal sneaks back. Off to the races in the final minutes. Here's Boyce. You've got a track state champion at the high school level out there on the wing for Lynchburg, and Madeline Boyce, and you love the energy that she's bringing here in the final few minutes as we approach 10 to go. Throw inserted, and an easy corner earned for the Hornets.
I think what's so impressive, if you I know that happened really, really fast, but if you take a look at your screen and you can slow it down to dissect what happened, that offense starts from the outside. Not an opportunity for Shenandoah to get inside and slow things down. It happens outside, it happens so fast. Yeah, Boyce wasn't able to connect, but that ball found its way back to the midfield. A good chance for the Hornets here.
The delivery right to Musselman. Tad too tall to get past, and now you're seeing that contact middle of the field. Perhaps the advantage awarded. Coast to coast, Shenandoah has options. Shepard lets this one go, and that was a smart eye line because that was not missing by much.
If you look at your screen and you're hearing the crowd might get a little bit odd, this is what they're seeing.
It's a little tug of the jersey, and it was right in the middle of the field, that spot where we have seen defenders who try to get away with it. Rarely do you, but Shenandoah recognizes in that spot. They want to use that space. They want to keep moving forward. Referee lets it play. Here's Warner, centering back to Den Hartzog. All the way to the far side, and just a touch away from Oliver.
I definitely think when you see that tug on the jersey, that one was You see defenders try to hide it often. That one was a little bit more than obvious. I think she was just trying to slow things down a little bit.
Well, you
didn't really care if it was seen or not.
Got to be careful in a spot like that, too. We've seen some red cards be awarded in a spot where it is one-on-one. If the keeper's the only one down, contact that time and no whistle. Delivery out of the near touchline, and it's a throw for Shenandoah. It's another one drawn right off the ball, and you know, on one side, you're frustrated if you're Lynchburg, but on the other, it's been called like that throughout the game. All you want is consistency at this spot. As Oliver can't retrieve the pass, goes the other way. Shenandoah wants numbers. Out to the side, Caitlin Wall playing catch-up. Does just enough to keep it in bounds.
I think it's definitely easy, you know, especially for us up here when we have the capabilities to slow these replays down. But like you said, just credit to the officials because it hasn't been lopsided. It's been a split game down the middle with the calls. It's not really like we've seen both head coaches fired up. They've been juiced tonight towards the referees. But again, credit to the neon shirts. They've really been letting this thing go both sides.
With how quickly some of those opportunities accelerate, you're just looking at the pace of play. And for a referee, you want to make sure it keeps going on. You don't want anybody to be hurt, as that one will be awarded. Hargrove down to the turf. Well, you definitely feel like you got to let him play. That was Cameron Mays who had the foul called against her, and you see Hargrove just tripped up. Not much more to say in that case, but it allows Sammy Rogstad, the southpaw, to prepare the entry. A free kick. Over 6:30 to play. Hand down delivery in the air. Goes out to the far side and out over the goal line.
And for Rogstad, you usually see her a little bit more accurate. Those types of set pieces there. She's going to be frustrated with herself there. That one, a little errant on her.
In this game so far, Shenandoah out shooting Lynchburg 10-9. Not a big disparity in any stat category. 5-3 advantage for Shenandoah on corners. No score, the obvious one.
It almost feels like one of those games where you can kind of feel where things are happening, right? You can feel that Shenandoah's had, well, only one, but those more opportunities. But it also feels like Lynchburg's had the better opportunities, if that makes any sense, just unable to capitalize.
And we've seen these spells of the game where neither team is really commanding possession, just back and forth. Look at the defense at the goal line. That's the toughness you want if you're on the coaching staff for Dr. Todd Olson.
There's just so much action and energy. The intensity has been off the charts as well as the physicality. I think that is the main credit to kind of limiting possession for both squads. You're seeing it flip-flop so much simply because of the defensive presence and how much they're getting involved, being so active on the defensive end. You're seeing it from every player on the field.
Doesn't it feel like an ODAC tournament game too? You know, you crawl closer to the end of October, and all you can really ask out of your team is to go hustle, to compete at a high level. But in a game like that, you keep playing on past the 90 minutes. And so it comes down to these last few. How important is it for these two teams to go at it in the final five?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crucial because, you know, you talk about feeling like an ODAC game. Really, the last two games here on Schellenberger have. Obviously, here tonight, the intensity has been ramped up, but you talk about fast-paced. It was the same way in the Lynchburg-Virginia Wesleyan game.
Player down on the advance. Shenandoah's bench frustrated. Lynchburg pressed to the outer confines of the field. Now a throw, and Shenandoah wanting to try and get everything right. Set up shop on the attacking side. Fulmer gets her head on it. Got to be careful now. It stays in the box. Far side. And deflected over the touchline. That's the effort you want from so many of these newcomers. We're getting a little bit of assistance on the far side as well. Actually can't tell if he was trying to sneak away with it or if maybe he was helping out the referees. Mentioned the youngsters out there on the field. Didn't know we were going to that demographic. On the field, still a very big battle in the final few minutes. And for either team, you're not guaranteed a chance in the final 3 minutes. And so it's all about creating as best as you can.
And if you do get a chance, it's unlikely that's a good one with the way that both defensive units have been playing here in this one.
Agello trying to get forward, and the tap by Fulmer gives Shenandoah the throw. Are there any extra theatrics? As we near the ending of this one, a code red affair, you knew the energy would be there for 90 minutes. And so far through 87 and a half, no separation.
And you can feel it pick up because, again, when we go back and you look at the Schellenberger Classic, those games had some intensity and they were very meaningful, but it didn't feel anything like the energy and the intensity that you've seen here in this one tonight.
No doubt. Those in-conference games, you see teams year after year, they mean something extra. Shenandoah wants no part of the series history record that Lynchburg has presented at 14-1-1. They're proving this is a new edition of this team, and the success they've had under Elizabeth Pike has been very, very impressive. Opening other side of the field, here's Agello. Loses the ball as Ava Olsen collects. Out to the other side. Now Morgan Oliver playing catch up. 90 seconds left. Sneaks through to Madeline Boyce.
Chance here if you're either team and you want one more good quality look at a set piece, something to set up, you got to go now. You got to try to put that pressure on a defense to force the opportunities now.
Both teams becoming out of position. Shenandoah's attack looks in. Shepard has to go down the ball right on the goal line. And Shenandoah captures the goal. The tally that was on the doorstep all evening. It's not until the final minute that the fireworks are ignited.
Yeah, and you talk about one mistake on defense. Kate Shepard in a beautiful spot. I mean, she couldn't have been in a better place. Her own defender, the foot gets stuck on the ball. I mean, that's a save that Shepard makes 10 out of 10 times if the ball gets through cleanly. A deflection off of her own defender, and it's laying right on the doorstep for Shenandoah.
Upon arrival here in the Hill City, Coach Pike was saying this game is all about limiting mistakes. And Shenandoah capitalizes on the biggest of the evening. Lynchburg, if they can't find the equalizer in the final 60 seconds, gonna felt stung after this one. Who else than McKenna Newcomb to thread it through? Lynchburg has 30 seconds to operate with, a little extra hustle. Now Madeline Boyce playing, and it's a throw. All in for the final few ticks. Anything you can do, and another clearance. That's all Shenandoah has to do. Maybe a long throw going into the box. It goes out. Fulmer tripped up, and the flag goes in the air. Is it another throw? 8 seconds to go. Den Hartzog, a free kick. 4 seconds. Curls inside. And the Hornets can't get it done. And a code red affair. The opposition get the final sting. Schellenberger Field, a sight we hadn't seen an opposing goal in for 4 and about .95 games. You see it in the final minute. Shenandoah and McKenna Newcomb able to go away with the 1-0 victory.
And for Shenandoah, big time win. First time they've beaten Lynchburg here on their campus in this series.
This is one of those contests where it will be hard to believe, and you're going to see the highlights on your screen of a game that was so back and forth, so physical, and both sides had to feel very impressed with the energy displayed. But all told, it will be the final mistake that Lynchburg remembers, and just a goal line stand that ultimately results in Shenandoah getting the victory. Kevin, you look towards Saturday. You got homecoming in Washington and Lee. The task doesn't get any easier. How do you try to get past a game like this that takes such an emotional toll on you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you just have to kind of forget the result and look at things to correct, because outside of the final 60 seconds, if you look at the game, there were so many positives to look at for Lynchburg defensively and offensively. They had their chances. I think for them it's just going to be going back and looking at how can you clean up those mistakes. How can you start to find the back of the net on some of those opportunities when you get those corners and when you get those other set pieces on those free kick opportunities. Defensively, your intensity was there. I mean, the level was there. Again, the lone goal that was scored, it's not like that was on your keeper. She was in the perfect spot for it. Opportunity, just one mistake. And in a game where we preach mistakes matter, it showed up in the final minute.
Unbelievable setting, a Code Red affair that goes the way of Shenandoah, 1-0, the final score. But big thanks to you for tuning in, and what was a very high-spirited affair. Both teams going at it. Shenandoah gets the 3 points, and we'll be back here at Schellenberger Field on Saturday for some homecoming soccer. 5 o'clock start time. Lynchburg takes on WNL. Big thanks to everybody in the crew here on LHSN doing a fantastic job, as always, to make this one happen. Our director, Grayson Howell. He is Kevin Nestor. I'm Evan Gates, saying so long from the Hill City.